Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to an interstitial episode. This is one of those we're doing a two-a-day because I've gotten a couple questions on Instagram and in other locales. Maybe it was the same person that asked me the question in both locations, and my mind has confuddled it. That is entirely possible. But at the same time, I feel that we are due a clearing of airs, and don't think that this is an anger thing. We're just talking about our boy Baseline, because I feel as if, I don't know why, but I feel as if on some level I haven't given the whole story. But to present the whole story, first, we have to bring in Tall Susan. I worked very hard to get the camera into the correct position where it has a framing that I'm somewhat happy with. And then when I have to move it to do something else, it gets all screwed up. And I would like the camera, like, panned lower down. Or we could just make Susan taller. And then when we put our boy Baseline on top, are we centered? You know what? We're pretty centered. He's filling most of the frame. Baseline is an Element Enduro Sendero SE, which I often tell people is the most stock vehicle that I own, and I stand by that. But I do also have to acknowledge that it is not a stock vehicle, because there are things that there are things that I did for quality of life improvements, like this is a free one. You remove the stock bumper will probably break on you, because these are all plastic and they extend back so far that they just break off. So then you drill into your bumper, you put set screws in it, and then you use the metal standoffs from another bumper, and then you get... So this is still the original bumper, but it was completely broken off of the vehicle and then remodified to fit. Moving forward from there, there's usually a little fuel cell right here for no reason. This is the brace that comes on an Ecto, a Gatekeeper, every other one of those. You put that in there, and you drop like 2.5 ounces of sprung weight just by putting that brace in there. Nothing else changes. Oh, I was going to say nothing else changes, but that's not true. To get this amount of compression, it would hit the fuel cell. You would stop right about there. And it would hit on flex as well. So there's really also, why is there a fuel cell? We're never going to see it. So you take that out, and then you're good. The battery mount is usually right here, despite the fact that the vehicle comes fitted with servo on axle. These are the factory servo on axle bits mounting the servo. But you'll see the sky brace here. There's a brace right here. Because the way the vehicle comes outfitted from the factory, it has the servo mount, servo tray from the CMS. And you will hit it with your servo at about half travel. So you're severely travel limited. So if you remove that and mount your shock towers with lock nuts, as we've done here, 99% chance you're going to bend your chassis. Even with my metal brace, can you perceive that this shock tower leans over a little bit? If you can't perceive that, when you see the body on him, look at the amount of bumper outside, and then look at the amount of bumper outside. So his chassis is slightly rolled to that side. But if you have this amount of patina that was not done artificially, and part of your grill is held on with zip ties, there's a good chance that part of you is bent or broken. So we end up where we are. These are the shock towers from any of the kits. Gatekeepers, the front towers on an Ecto, but the Ecto has the rears. So this is 4 front towers. But these are the stock holes in the body mounts. And as you can see, the body just quite literally drops on. I did this because I wanted 5 shock mounting positions instead of 2. And I also wanted to be able to manufacture my own body mounts, because these are worn through a little bit. Like, these used to be domed on the top, and now they're kind of flat on the top. This guy, if you've been around before, you know he works for a living. That's why he has quick disconnects for all of his electronics outside the receiver box. So he can change his servo, he can change his motor. He has trays to change out his speed control, the whole deal. He does indeed. He has all of the internals from a Stealth X inside his XF. Inside the Stealth X is a single 52-tooth gear. So there's no overdrive, underdrive in a Stealth XF as it comes. If you've bought the Stealth XF kit, it does have it. I just bought the gears for a Stealth X, dropped them in there, and now he has 12% underdrive to the rear. He's also sporting none of the original plastic links. And the reason behind that is Element, in their divine wisdom, or perhaps as a cost-saving measure, they ship you a 313 millimeter wheelbase rig with a 324 millimeter body. So when you get this and you take it out of the box, this tire will be here. It will be like deflecting the fender out of the way. So you have two choices. You can cut the front of your fender off, you can put a different body on it, or you can just swap out links to make it fit. The link mounting positions are all the factory link mounting positions. And if you'll notice, the shock pretty much stands straight up and down. So it was actually laid, it was almost leaning back before. So I don't 100% know what they were thinking, except that it was a cost-saving measure. He is at this point in his life cycle completely fitted with bearings, save for one. His inner pinion, so this guy, there's a bearing right in there. That guy is a bronze oil bushing. And every Element axle I have has a bronze oil bushing right there, because that bearing likes to explode. Because what Element did is, in my humble opinion, they have made a pinion to engage the ring that is too small. So it is very, very easy for that pinion to come out of adjustment. So I know this is daunting to people that have not had one of these before or are unfamiliar with Element axles. But if you buy an SE, take your front axle apart and make sure that the gear is meshing correctly. Because if it's not, you will blow it up. He blew up two, and he is now on the factory team hardened one that costs $50, which I do not believe is a necessity, except for him, because he works for a living, and he probably has as much time on him as perhaps the rest of the fleet combined. These are the original drive shafts, except for the sliders. The sliders that come with them are plastic. These sliders are just Element sliders, and I have a box full of them. So they were changed because I wanted to? I don't know. So when I changed the rear links, I fabricated these links. These are just axial links of whatever. I fabricated the front uppers and the front lowers. Lowers out of brass, uppers out of steel, uppers out of steel. These are the only two links that I didn't make myself. And I did that because, well, basically because I can. I had no other reason. I actually put longer in the back and attempted to run a hybrid of metal lowers and plastic uppers because I thought, oh, I'll save weight. That does not work. I snapped a plastic upper within the first 5 minutes of attempting to do that. So I recommend against doing that. Then there's all the little stuff. And the little stuff is potentially more important than the big stuff. I think it's more important than the 12%. I think it's more important than a great number of things. First and foremost, well, first, perhaps not foremost, don't use the shock mounting position up here. Mount the shock to the link position in the rear. Due to geometry, it is not necessary to do it in the front. The shock is mounted to its original position in the front. You may be saying, those are not Element shocks. No, he was on Element shocks up until very, very, very recently. These are fake Dravtex from Famanda via AliExpress, which I gave a middling review to at best, and then determined they need to be put into the Consumer Reports long-term test. So they will be on baseline for the next 3 or 4 months, and we are going to see how they go. And they are fully built out of deep parts bins. These have vintage element, I said element, and what I mean is team associated #1 pistons, which are 10.1 millimeters inside 10.1 millimeter bore shocks, which is why we can kind of, like, they come down very slow. You won't be able to hear it. They kind of go, oh, they go, oh, because they're basically zero clearance. Now, what they do is, with the counterbalance of the wheels in place, they feel amazing. Low C20 weight, and they feel like they have 80 weight in them because you put a zero clearance piston in them. And these are the springs that he has always run, Element whites, all the way around, which I do not believe are the springs that came. I think he came with a pair of grays. Did he come with a pair of grays? He came with grays in the front and whites in the rear. Grays are 2.4 pounds, whites are 1.3. There's absolutely no reason for me to run 2.4s in the front because I run BOSOA battery on servo, on axle. So all of that weight is unsprung. Now, in order to do that, you have to omit that tray. You have to figure out a brace of some sort that could be lower, but still can't be on the tower because it would hit the battery. And you run it like this, and you probably will still bend your chassis, but these are sacrifices that we make for performance. And I would take the fenders off as well, but the fenders are just constantly full of muck, so the fenders are serving a purpose. The biggest mod, and the one that I tell everyone to do immediately, is what I call the caster flip, which is, ordinarily, this linkage, the tie rod, is mounted to the bottom of these. You remove it, you clock your C-hubs back. You clock them back usually. If you're on a factory C-hub with the little arrows, you usually go until basically the line, so you've got an arrow here and an arrow here. You want it to look like they're going to go like that. It's maybe 2 or 3 splines clocked back. And then you move the tie rod to the top of the steering arm, and as you can see, the clearance is what we in the industry call barely, because it has rubbed that boy shiny, and it has also not just rubbed it shiny, but there's actually a flat spot starting to wear on the tie rod. But it is worth it. Why is it worth it, do you ask? Well, we will figure out the best. I think you can see a little bit there, but we will exhibit a little better. So with what the caster flip does is your effect. Oh no, yeah, my front bumper is broken. I wonder if I have enough. I wonder if I have enough meat to do this. Yeah, that is fully snapped. Yeah, we're gonna have to. Next time you see him, he's probably going to have 2 screws right here through his bumper, and I'm going to do the same thing to the front bumper that I did to the rear bumper, and just put metal standoffs off, cast-offs from some Amazon bumper to hold his bumper in place. So with that caster flip, with more caster, you're going to give up some of your forward drive. And what you're exchanging that forward drive for is the ability to turn your tires to what appears to be a grotesquely extreme angle. Like, it will go that far, which is 80 degrees, but it's going to stop there. The servo endpoint setting is critical in this because you will be able to see, yeah, you can see right there. See all that silver and badness right there? That is from what I call overcamming of the universal. The universal is trying to turn when it's turned so far. Like, this side is going clunk, 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 clunk. So you see, do you see this right here? That's not the sun. That's not glare. That's where the tires turn so far that they have polished the sides of the links. So everybody that asks, how do you get so much steering? It's caster flip. Caster flip is where all that steering comes from. That and getting rid of the Reedy 1523 or whatever Reedy servo is on here. This is a Flash Hobby 50 kg direct power, which has been on here since day one and has never been an issue other than it has stripped out a couple of horns. And which is why it runs a big double clamper now. And I like a pretty straight angle, so I run a big guy, a big spacer down there to keep that linkage straight. And he has a lot of steering. If it's not limited electronically, he has too much steering. And he has a very, I see it now. He has I wonder how long it's been like that. He has a very broken front bumper, which we will remedy shortly. But the core DNA of this, oh yes, also, these Hot Storm wheels, these 8-hole wheels from Hot Storm, which you might still be able to find on Amazon, they are disproportionately heavy. They're strangely heavy. These are RTR Canyon Trails, and inside the RTR Canyon Trails are double buns, Canyon mediums, front and rear, a hair bun over a Timpton, this exact thing in all 4 tires, and that's what he runs all day, every day, unless he's testing something, and I don't know what it is. They just happen to work perfectly. Fusion SE 1200 on a 24-tooth pinion, but because there's an intermediate gear, that's what this little dome is right here. There's an intermediate gear between the pinion and the spur. It's basically the equivalent of running a 14-tooth pinion. So it's not like we've gone crazy on the size of the pinion. And I don't know if there's anything that I'm missing. Hot Storm wheels. These two things, which will cost you at the outside about $10 if you don't have the parts. Put a front bumper mount on the rear and cut and French your bumper up into your tailgate. Caster flip in the front, which requires nothing except taking things apart and putting them back together again. And then discard all of the RTR electronics. Get yourself a Radiolink RC4. Get yourself a Fusion SE 1200. And get yourself the servo of your choice. I like direct power for applications like this because things like the Fusion SE have a 3 amp internal BEC and you can overpower that. There's just a luxury to running a big overpowered. 50 kilograms is tremendous overkill for servo on axle, especially turning just little 1.9s. It's way more than we need, but better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, as they say. So if you have any other questions baseline related, do let me know, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. He is a good boy, and he works very hard. And as such, he is one of the very few rigs in the Canyon fleet that has had parts changed simply because they've... I think we can probably... Yeah, there we go. Because they've broken, they've worn out. The fenders aren't quite as tight in the front and back as they used to be because they've been taken off and put back on so many times. I don't know, I can really see that lean in the front. It's just kind of angling off that way. I will give it a couple... Oh, you can also see the fenders kind of lean in towards each other. That's a little better. He's a little bent. But he keeps going strong, and his drivetrain is still strong. And what a guy. So, to answer the baseline, some baseline required questions, because I keep saying, oh, he's just completely stock. But not really. He's been tuned, but I don't think I've done anything structurally to him in such a way as to make him no longer representative of what he once was. He has, aside from like links, he's still a, you know, I changed links. Why they didn't just give us a 324, I don't know. Or a 313 body, also don't know. So, there you have it. Any questions, please do ask. Check out affiliate links or whatever. Thanks for dropping by for a little bit of a one where we talk about a hardworking man. And now I've got to, I think there'll be enough meat to drill through and mount this. He'll have a bumper again next time you see him. I look forward to seeing you next time. I hope that in between now and when we meet again, you all do your very best to have a good run, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming by and seeing Baseline, our hardworking man, and Tall Susan is just spinning away. We will catch you next time.